The Inner Sanctum presents the Wednesday Whiparound. Welcome to the Inner Sanctum's brand new segment on the YouTube channel. I'm your host, Anthony Alessiani, and today we'll be producing the inaugural announcement of the Wednesday Whiparound, a brand new segment where we'll be talking about the biggest topics of the past week. And I need a little bit of help to get those topics into a good discussion. And today, joining me for the first ever edition of the Wednesday Whiparound is Jono Baruch and Stephen Paletti. Boys, welcome to the official Wednesday Whiparound.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to be here, Anthony. I'm looking forward to this.
Now, we've got a lot of topics to talk about that we could have mentioned. You know, there's been the Super Bowl and how big that was. There's been a lot of talk about the Adelaide 500 and will that return? But we've nailed it down to three big topics. And I want to kick it off with Will Pucovski. We know about his concussion resume as such, with the amount of injuries and incidents he's had over the past few years, and the latest casualty over the weekend. Jono, you're a big cricket man. What do you make of this?
Well, this is extremely concerning. I think it's well into double digits now, the amount of concussions that Will Pucovski's had. This one not even on the cricket field. I mean, for all the times he's been hit in the head, he's managed to concuss himself, slipping downstairs at home, running between the wickets and getting his bat caught in turf. And this one's just a simple, playing with a volleyball before the game, warming up on day 4, and it hit him in the head. So, and again, it's very concerning when you look at him, such a prodigious talent, and to go through all these different setbacks with concussion. We know his mental health battles which have stemmed through it, and to the point where now there are serious concerns where there's talk about him maybe having to give the game away, which it would be shocking for such a young and talented batter. But you almost have to look at it, and Stephen, maybe you can talk a bit more about this with some other sports that you follow, with concussion being such a big topic and prevalent issue now, that it's one that he might have to consider.
Yeah, no, I like for those who don't know, I play Quidditch, and recently playing Quidditch, I suffered a concussion. I have a friend who's had about 6 or 7 concussions, to the point where he's had to retire multiple times because of those concussions. Of all the body parts, that we have, we can get a robotic arm, or a prosthetic arm. We can get prosthetic legs. Like, we can replace so many body parts. We can't replace the brain. It's we have to look after it, and it's I genuinely think that for the sake of his for Pucovski's long-term health, that perhaps giving the game away might just be the best thing for him, for the sake of his long-term health. Like we've seen with boxers all the time, the term used to be punch drunk, because they'd get into their 40s and they start slurring their words from repeated brain injuries, which obviously we now know are concussions. And I don't think that for the sake of playing cricket, regardless of how good Pucovski actually is, I just don't think that's worth doing significant long-term damage.
Yeah, I completely agree with both of you. I think you're looking at talent aside here. You're looking at a person who's got a whole life ahead of him, and playing cricket's only going to be a small portion of that in the end when it comes to long term. So he's got to really weigh up and see whether or not playing cricket, it's his number one thing, it's his passion. He's been doing it as a kid growing up. But you just got to think, is it going to be worth it when you're 45, 50? Or, it could be worse. You could be doing a lot more damage and struggling to make that as an age. It is a serious thing, and boxing is a perfect term for it. Once you take too many blows to the head, you second guess everything, and you become such a different person in general as well. And mental health combining with that can just do so much damage. So it's going to be one of those hard decisions that he might not even have to make himself. He's going to have to be made by someone else, which is a tough thing to take, especially as a kid, because when you've got so much more to give and it's getting taken away from you, it's just going to be so much difficult to carry on with that. But John, I do think maybe it is time for someone else to step in and make that decision for him.
Well, I think this is one of those cases where you almost need to protect the athlete from himself. And maybe Sean Graff, the director of Victorian Cricket, has said there are some difficult conversations in the week ahead for Will and his coaches and his management. Will's got time on his side. He's still young enough to give the game or have a break for about 4 or 5 years and really rest and recover and not even think about cricket, and he can still come back and have a fantastic career and hopefully put all this stuff behind him. It's just whether or not, and you both hit nails on the head, whether or not you can, how much damage can you do to your brain? And okay, yeah, you can let it settle, but is it one of those situations where you just simply have to protect Will from himself? I'm not sure. So it's a real watch this space on this one.
Time will tell, really. And it's coming to the end of cricket season anyway, so he's going to have a good few months off to really evaluate his situation. But I'll pose one question to you both. If you're Will Pucovski and you're waking up tomorrow and you have a decision to make, what are you doing?
I'm walking away. I genuinely think that my long-term health is more important than being good at the sport.
I'd be having a bit of a break, but if this is the one thing that you've set your desire to continue doing and set your lifelong dream, and yeah, he's got that baggy green in his back pocket now, but all he's wanted to do since he was a little boy was play cricket for Australia. So yeah, he's had some hurdles, but I don't think he'll take his dream away from him that easily. So if I'm Will Pucovski, I want to get back in the nets as soon as I possibly can.
Will Pucovski is a bit of a watch this space, but what isn't a watch this space, as we change a bit of topics into the next segment, the AFL just recently posted their financial result, and going by what other clubs have done under the AFL and posting a few profits, they've posted an amazing loss as such in this COVID times. Stephen, have you seen, first of all, have you seen the loss, and what do you make of the current situation for the AFL?
I have not. I'm not an AFL person by default, but if you look at a loss, and I assume it's of a significant nature, then like for a company, for a sporting code that purports itself as the pinnacle of Australian sport, the absolute best in Australia, for everything the AFL does, to be posting losses like this is almost inexcusable. Now, obviously, there is the built-in excuse of COVID and reduced crowd numbers and having to move everyone into a hub, and the significant costs that come with that. But as you said, several of the teams have still managed to post profits. Like for a club or for an organization that's supposed to have the bankroll of the AFL and the safety net of the AFL, through cash. Oh, sorry, there goes the microphone. Cash reserves and things like that. It's a really poor look for them to be putting up such a massive loss.
It's an interesting juxtaposition where you look at, Anthony, the profits and the profit and loss statements from a lot of the clubs around the league. Your club, Port Adelaide, posted a massive profit yesterday. And it would seem as that even, COVID's wiped a lot of things away from people. And for us Victorians, we've been starved of going to the football a lot in recent years, but everyone's still looking to support the club. Whereas you look at AFL and all these other massive sporting organizations that are fighting tooth and nail to keep their competitions going and keep providing content, and it is chewing up a massive amount of money. You look at $73 million loss for the AFL over the last year, that's to operate charter flights, hubs, and rigorous testing, and to deal with the lack of crowds that some games were played on. So as you rightly put, Stephen, it's a really big loss and a big hole that the AFL now finds themselves in financially, and they had all those cash reserves that were locked away in their rainy day fund, and it looks like they've been burnt through to keep the competition alive. Now, hopefully, coming into 2022, there are minimal interruptions, and they'll want to play on as much as they can, particularly with most of the country open now, and things moving on to a degree of normality, but it's almost as if like they're really relying on a big year in 2022 to try and right the ship and get everything back up and going the way it was.
I can completely agree with you both. I think, and the funny thing as well about this year's financial statement about last year's loss is the fact that they returned to club funding. So the clubs that had funds being pumped into them by the AFL. And I think Port Adelaide, my boys, were one of those still. I know that with Port Adelaide, they repaid from their $4.3 million profit for the year. They repaid $3.2 million from their debt. So I'm sure clubs that were posting profits have still repaid part of their debt. So the AFL would still be getting some sort of funding back. But do you reckon, and you've seen with other codes and other organisations around the world with COVID and how they've adapted to the situation, they've had virtual arenas, they've had fans come in, they've had different, I guess, opportunities and approaches to the pandemic. Do you think the AFL sort of just stagnated and we're sort of hoping something would come good in 2021 compared to, changing the game a bit and maybe looking at other areas to try and make that revenue back?
I think it's an interesting one. I think they were trying to hope to get through 2021 relatively scot-free, which you sort of saw in the early season flare-ups that it wasn't going to happen. And by the time Sydney left home in round 14, I think it was, and the Sydney teams didn't play another game in the state until round one this year, until this round one coming up in about a month. So it's taken them a long time. And as you said, they can be as innovative as they want, but you can't plan for the unexpected. And as much as, they had a year of practice in 2020 where they moved everyone up into a hub, and I guess all these different sporting organizations, you've probably got an A-League example that you can tell us quickly, Stephen, that they just learnt on the fly, and it's just like, all right, things change at the drop of a hat. You've got to adapt. You've got to be flexible, and it costs money, and particularly when things are on a tight schedule and a tight budget, and you need to move mountains quickly to try beat borders, to try and be able to make sure that you can get the game going ahead, and with the right testing regime, it just costs money, and it's a cost not only for the AFL but the entire sporting industry with all the different codes and leagues.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw with the A-Leagues that during the conclusion to the 2019-20 A-League men's season, that it was get everyone into a New South Wales hub, which took a lot of time. The Melbourne teams all had to basically, live inside of backpackers. I'm pretty sure it was backpackers. Apologies if I've gotten that wrong off the top of my head. And they were all living together in the one place to try to get the season done. Some games had crowds, some didn't. It was up to the individual teams involved. Then, like the last couple of seasons, this season and last season, it was a lot of it was like, it started off conference based to try to keep keep everything going. And so I guess it's just like for the AFL, I think the question will be how good is this season going to be? Is it going to be the case of, for the Victorian crowds and for the Sydney crowds that have been so starved of AFL matches, are the fans going to come back in droves? And are they possibly prepared to pay a slightly higher price, say $2 on every ticket, an increase to maybe help the AFL absorb some of those losses?
Yep, I think what it does prove, just quickly, is the fact that the fans are the most crucial part of the AFL. So hopefully a bit of reward does come back to the fans in 2022, whether that's attending games or a little bit of extra in the membership packs. I guess we'll wait and see when those rock up for us fans. But speaking of fans, we love to support our local boys, and Australia's very own Josh Giddey, once again, proving to be one of the better pickups in the NBA draft just recently for the Oklahoma Thunder. He posted another triple-double again. This is unreal. The bloke's done it back-to-back and 3 times this season. Jono, tell me, what's going on with Josh Giddey? Why is he so good and turning up at the moment?
Mate, he's the best thing since sliced bread. If you speak to all the right basketball people, they'll continually tell you that the trajectory of Josh Giddey, and everyone was saying that OKC, they took him way too high. Nah, this guy, we've seen him do it in the NBL for years now, and is doing this in his rookie year. I think he now owns the youngest triple-double, the second youngest triple-double, and the third youngest triple-double in NBA history. And to come out and shoot a triple-double, it's your first game at Madison Square Garden. Is well and truly in the reckoning for the NBA Rookie of the Year, is just putting together a remarkable season. And again, this was another remarkable performance, almost carrying OKC on his back at the moment.
Yeah, you only get one chance to impress in the Garden, and that's exactly what Josh Giddey did. You know, I guess my question to you guys, I'm not the biggest NBA fan. Like, I'll watch it if it's on, but I'm not going to go out of my way like to watch it. I don't follow a team or anything like that. We've seen, Josh Giddey has taken the league by storm this year. Patty Mills has had a bit of a resurgence post Olympics. The Ben Simmons drama, I guess, does this, do you think there's going to be a bigger influx of Australian talent into the NBA in seasons coming out of what has been a strong last couple of seasons for the NBL?
I think it definitely doesn't hinder the reputation of Australian basketball, and if anything, we've seen from the NBL there's been a shift in such a way where it's starting to get a bit more noticeable. People are starting to take a lot more interest in it, and I think it's been a steady rise, which has been well deserved considering the amount of effort they've put in to grassroots and everything. I know there's a lot of my friends that are really big basketball fans, and they don't really look to the NBL. It's more the NBA, and we're going to follow the Lakers. What's LeBron doing as such? But now that there's a Josh Giddey in town, Patty Mills is doing his thing. It's a great promotion for Australian basketball, and I think the NBA is going to be taking a lot more notice into what we're doing down here, and especially since what these guys have done. I think it's nothing but a positive.
Yeah, you just mentioned the the NBA and how people are just we want to watch what the NBA is doing and what LeBron's doing and all that. It sounds like another sport I'm very, very familiar with in a certain level of European competitions.
Oh, what might that be, Stephen?
That would be football. And everyone who's we've got to watch what Man United and Barcelona and Real Madrid and the A-League's crap and it's never going to be good, but we're not going to give it a chance, and we're not going to put money into the sport to help it get better.
It's the old stigma, isn't it?
Yes.
We'll look anything past the Australian sport, and we'll go straight to the big boys in the big league. We'll see what Cristiano Ronaldo's doing, and Man City at top, Chelsea. I think there's a few Everton fans around here in Australia that are straight towards them, and they're not having that good of a season. So similar with the basketball. I'm not the biggest fan, but I'm definitely taking notice of what Josh Giddey and Patty Mills and stuff are doing. So maybe I will have to start having a look at what the 36ers are doing. John, have you got any other topics you'd like to talk about for the Whiparound? It's been a very successful episode so far.
It certainly has, but there's one big breaking story that emerged yesterday with Adelaide United in the A-Leagues that Stephen was just talking about, and you're probably best placed to talk about this, Stephen, with the announcement of the inaugural Pride game in the A-League men's competition. This is on the back of the Josh Cavallo announcement earlier in the year, and all the work that he and Adelaide United have been doing to embrace everyone in no matter what race, religion, sexuality in the game, and to have this inaugural Pride game in a couple of weeks' time against the Central Coast Mariners. It's just another watershed moment for the league and for the sport.
Yes, you can't see it behind my glasses, but there's a tear in my eye. This has been something that I've wanted for a long time. This has been something that a lot of fans have wanted for a long time. Is a Pride game, and next will hopefully come Pride Round. We saw it take a couple of years to get underway in the AFLW. So I'm hoping this is the start of something big. It's the right thing to do, and I have full faith that Adelaide United aren't going to have it come off as tokenistic. It's going to be a genuine celebration. There's going to be meaning behind it. It's not just let's tick that box to say that we've done it kind of thing. I have full faith in Adelaide United that they're going to get it done. I'm trying everything I can to get to this game. Unfortunately, flights aren't cheap, so if anyone wants to help out with that, hit me up on Twitter. I'll take anything at this point. I haven't been shy either about who I am, that I'm non-binary. And I wrote a piece a few weeks back on the AFLW Pride Round, which you can check out at the Inner Sanctum. And to have potentially an A-League version, an A-Leagues version to write about in future years and talk to more A-Leagues fans who will hopefully feel more comfortable coming out about who they are, is something that just fills me with joy, and I absolutely can't wait to see what this is going to turn into.
It's absolutely fantastic that we get the opportunity to have a Pride Round. The A-League and the Adelaide United team are just going to do absolutely everything they can to make everyone be proud of the round itself and make sure the celebration's beautiful. So if anything, I say get it to the Adelaide Oval and pack that thing out, because it'll be such a special game to be a part of. So, well, I think that's everything, boys. We've had a very successful Wednesday Whiparound. A lot to talk about in our first episode, and it's only mid-February. There's a lot more to come on the Inner Sanctum YouTube channel as well. So make sure you hit the subscribe button. Check out all the boys and everyone that is a part of the Inner Sanctum. Great articles coming out left, right, and centre about any sport in the world that you can think of. We're covering it at the moment, and especially about the Pride Round and AFLW and everything that's sport related. You can catch it on the Inner Sanctum. Jono, Stephen, thank you so much for joining me today for the first ever edition of the Wednesday Whiparound.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, Anthony.
No worries, guys. Everyone, thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.